Signs of the Southland, August 14th, 2023. Let's start with a little bit of Construction Corner. We haven't had an update in a while from the wilds of tech architecture. Mr. Purdy, a little birdie told me that there was a Board of Regents meeting recently. Care to give us an update from
Yeah,
there?
yes, I was actually unaware it was happening until it started. Once another little birdie tipped me off that it was happening, which anyone could have found it. It's online. All this
It's a
stuff is
network
public.
of birdies,
The
a
day we
swarm,
had
if you will.
yes, the little birds from Game of Thrones, as one could put it. And we knew about that from what Chad Bishop and Ken Seeger had reported that Grant Field possibly was going to get renamed. And they had specifically mentioned that Hyundai was in line to get those naming rights for the Grant Field name, which made sense because they're building a plant out in Georgia and they're trying to invest a whole lot of cash into the state of Georgia, just in general. And so like that made sense. And then took a look at the agenda line, and sure enough, the final item was renaming a facility at Georgia Tech. And I was like, you don't say. So did some journalism stuff, and sure enough, got it confirmed that it was about that very thing. And so got the tweets out. I believe I was first on this, at least in terms of like that meeting was about changing Grant Field to Hyundai Field. And sure enough, in the meeting, they announced that with full approval, there was no counter, no nothing. They did ask how much money. Like they said, this be $55 million for the sponsorship naming rights. And then Pete Thamel later reported that it's going to be closer to 70 with the additional sponsorship going on. So the pure $55 million number is just for the Hyundai Field name at Bobby Dodd Stadium. So the full name of the stadium is now Bobby Dodd Stadium at Hyundai Field. There will be some sort of memento thing in the stadium, acknowledging that it was called Grant Field. So it's not gonna like they're not gonna like get rid of it. Also, Tech is allowed to still refer to Grant Field and refer to the field as Grant Field. At
Well,
their
that's good.
yes, they can't like just call it Grant Field and be dicks about it. But they will have to still call it Hyundai Field, but they'll be able to use the Grant Field name when appropriate. So it's not gone, but yes, it is for all intents and purposes, and for $55 million, Hyundai Field.
Uh, Jake, I know you have a very strong opinion about this, but before you go, I just want to hit a couple of the major points in terms of the financials. Like Jack mentioned, it's a $55 million deal over 20 years. That is actually a 10-year deal
Yes.
that has two 5-year renewal options. I don't believe it says who actually holds the option in that case, but the overall value, if the deal goes to completion, would be $55 million. That is approximately $2.75 million a year. Again, if the deal goes to completion, which is approximately what Brent Key's current salary is.
Yeah.
If you take that full $70 million number and divide it over the 20-year period, that's 3.5, which, yeah, that's effectively Brent Key's salary. So you're looking at $3.5 million, give or take a couple of cents here and there. That is now effectively spoken for, an entire revenue coach's salary that is now spoken for. And that $3.5 million can go somewhere else on the budget.
Let's keep in mind, we didn't have to do anything for this. Like we didn't have to like outside of renaming the field, nothing really changed fundamentally about Georgia Tech here to get this money. Like this is not I don't want to say it's pure bonus. We had to be willing to change the name, but like this was not money we exactly had to like claw tooth and nail to get, which is kind of great.
I was going to say, I'm not going to belabor any points too much. We had, a whole basically podcast episode about this because it was, the middle of the summer, but I'm sad, but I kind of get it, I mean, it, like Jack said, it didn't really fundamentally change anything. It's more money coming in the door than it used to be. I have seen a couple comments out there that like, oh, $70 million, that'll instantly wipe out a big chunk of the debt, which really that's not how this works. They're not paying us $70 million all at once. So I do want to be clear that it is drips and drabs. Well, not really drips. It's a couple million a year, but it's a couple million that we didn't have before. So I don't know. I honestly, I'm just kind of delighted to hear that we can still call it Grant Field. Really, I think that's kind of a win in and of itself. But I mean, people still call the flats, and it's been. I mean, that was only the unofficial name before we was even called Grant Field in the first place. So go figure.
A couple of notes just from the quotes that were provided to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Thank you again to Chad, who is the beat writer for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Now, we had an interview with him a couple of weeks ago that you should check out. But from Jay Batt, quote, "The dollars and cents that go with this is transformative for our athletic department. The revenue that will be generated from this field naming and this broader partnership across a lot of our different facilities will allow us to provide needed resources for coaches, student athletes, operations, and it'll go straight to our bottom line and make a big difference for our athletic department at obviously a time and a place where we need those resources to continue to be competitive, but also provide world-class experiences for our student athletes." End quote. So one more note before we get out of here. One, which I think Jake will find incredibly interesting. The one note that I had about the actual Grant family, not the Jake Grant family, but the Grant family, who is the namesake for, well, I guess the former namesake of the field. They were spoken with, they were consulted as part of the change. So that should be actually that we should actually note that there were a couple of very frustrating tweets by people that know virtually nothing about how Georgia Tech operates, dragging Georgia Tech's administration for making this deal. I'm not going to say any names or any schools.
Akshay, are you referring to people who do not go or associate with Georgia Tech?
I'm not naming any names,
i.e. people who would not know what they're talking about.
I'm not saying any names, and I'm not mentioning any institutions. I'm just putting the word out there. The other note, and this is the thing that I think that Jake will find most interesting, is the final quote that I'll share from Jay Batt. Quote, "The leadership from Hyundai, the leadership from Georgia Tech, particularly President Brera, as he continues to lead and be aligned with athletics in a huge way," referring, end quote, referring to how, like both of you were saying, this was not necessarily a Tech goes out and tries to find the highest bidder for their stadium naming rights. They were approached, supposedly or allegedly, by Hyundai for this partnership. It should also be noted, I guess this is the third note that I had, Georgia Tech is the 6th ACC program to have a naming rights deal for its football venue, and there are 2 SEC schools as well with naming rights. So this is not necessarily unprecedented in the South. I think Jake, Kroger Field. Yeah, Jake, I think I'm with you. Just to wrap this one up, it stinks. It's definitely a big part of the institution's history. But at the end of the day, Georgia Tech needs the money. There's no more polite way to put that. They need the money. And if they can make back the cost that they're spending on a head coach's salary, or even, let's say, like a former coach's buyout annually, right? Either of those amounts, like you're still, like, it's still a net positive on the balance sheet. So I will make my peace with it, I think, is the best way to put it.
I think that's a good way to put it. Make the peace with it. The bit about talking to the Grants and the bit about still being able to, like, call it that. I mean, I'm not going to say it makes it feel more like free money, if that makes sense.
I mean, that's why the partnership works, right? Like, no one, they talked to the Grant family, which is one, but the modern name of the stadium to most people, like, this is a little disrespectful, but you get where I'm going with this, is Bobby Dodd Stadium. Yep. The fact that that's why this works, and that's why it was at the end of the day, it's possible that this is why that was an acceptable risk, right? The blowback was worth it, because the people that call it Grant Field are your older fans, and your newer fans and most of the nation calls it Bobby Dodd Stadium. You can put whatever value judgment in that you want. I'm not making one. I'm just saying that is why the athletic department probably felt like this is something that they could do and be comfortable with.
Yeah,
because
I
it
think that
doesn't
makes
tarnish
sense.
the brand of the institute. To finish the point, it doesn't tarnish the brand that they've built up with the stadium.
And I don't think it's inherently different. Like calling it Hyundai Field relative to historic Grant Field. This is going to sound like such a semantical point, but like historic Grant Field is still an accurate thing to call Hyundai Field, if that makes sense.
It's also
That's
an
true,
accurate
yeah.
thing to call the stadium itself.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You can extrapolate my point from there, but I think you get what I'm saying.
Historic Grant Field is a double meaning now.
Yes, it is
Oof,
historic
that's dark.
Grant Field. Yeah, but
Um,
yeah, no. Also, for those who don't recall, I always find it amusing to point out when we run into one of Atlanta's big timey old families. Yes, the Grant we're referring to here, not myself, no relation, is the Grant behind Grant Park. So, just next time you run into them or some Inmans or the Highs or something like that, all those people with the place names, they were real folks. I don't think there was anyone called Midtown. But
Probably not.
what, you'd never heard of John Midtown? I'm personally offended.
I believe that's John Dewberry, but that's the topic for a different podcast.
Different podcast. But we should talk a little bit more about his sport while at Tech, football. Fall camp is now fully underway, and there was a short scrimmage this past Saturday. Mr. Purdy, you have some news from there.
That was me.
Mr.
This
Grant, you have some news from there.
Nominally a football podcast. No, there was a fall scrimmage this weekend. This content is brought to you by Jake listening to the presser afterwards. Just some news and notes of things that stuck out. It was hot. I can confirm that. I think, Jack, you were also outside. It was very, very hot in Atlanta. I was doing yard work, and I don't want to say how fast I just became sweaty mess, but it was very fast. So props to all the folks out there, running around and crashing into each other and stuff. Mostly first and second stringers playing, but I believe it was about 40 snaps to the third stringers, they said. I can't remember the exact number, but a good mix there. Just some news and notes that, coaching position on the field, not like the position groups, but like whether they'll be up in the stands or down on the sideline. I believe coach said that was still getting ironed out. Couple standouts, but it's fall scrimmage. So I think the most important thing is, getting out there. And I mean, it's only, I guess 4 weeks away that they're going to be playing at 1 p.m. on a Saturday in Midtown. So the sooner they're ready for that, I mean, hopefully it'll be a little cooler, but it'll still be, for all intents and purposes, summer in
Probably
Atlanta.
not.
So yeah.
You've been in that stadium in mid-September. It's a freaking sauna.
It is.
It's not okay. Sauna is actually putting it nice.
Yeah.
No, it's like a steamer basket.
Sure.
Like a metal steamer basket.
Okay. I support that reference.
Moving on. I think it's time that we talk about the other fall sport, volleyball. They start their season coming up in the next couple of weeks. They have a scrimmage coming up this week versus Auburn, I believe, and they just played their white and gold game this past weekend. So definitely gearing up for another hopefully successful season. Mr. Purdy, let's start with you. Tell me a little bit, set the stage for me before we talk about their future, their present and future. How did they do last year?
They did, I think, about what we expected. They finished 21-8. They made the NCAA tournament. They were just off hosting. They finished as a 5 seed when the bracket was filled out instead of a top 4 seed that would have gotten them hosting rights. We went to Marquette. We played Wright State, beat the crap out of them, and then played Marquette and got the crap beat out of us pretty badly in a match that both Julia and Michelle have described as one they never had a chance in, which was very interesting because they said that was the only match all year that they felt that way. And sadly, it had to be that one. They played some insanely great games against Pitt where they lost 3-2. They set the school record for home attendance with 3,400 and something people when they played Pitt at home. They got reverse swept, sadly, by Louisville at home. I sadly wasn't there for that game, but I heard that was a legendary match for the season. Julia Bergman set a whole bunch of records. Brilliant Morissette was amazing. She had a 20-kill game somewhere in there as well. And ultimately, they finished third in the ACC behind Pitt and Louisville, which was tracking for what we all thought they would do. There's a couple not great losses in there, but they were, I think, still all right. They finished 12th in Viper, or ranked 12th in Viper, which is Husker Geek's fancy schmancy, basically team aggregate stat. And they were 16th in the final coaches poll. So the McCamish game was a big deal because they had never played a game in McCamish. They played a game in Alexander Memorial, but not in McCamish. So that was the first time they had done that. And
that was against FSU.
Was it? Okay. Interesting. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
And this year,
Mr. Grant, actually, before you continue,
okay.
Jack, Jake, do you remember exactly why they were able to play this game in McCamish? I'm teeing you up for this because I'm hoping you remember.
Because the court got destroyed, so they had an excuse to put pole holes in the floor.
Yeah.
That's from the flood, wasn't it?
Yes, the flood.
Yeah, it was some sort of. Was it a freeze or was it just a straight up flood?
I remember seeing the pictures. Yeah, something burst and they had to replace the basketball floor last year. So they were able to.
Whoops.
They were able to put the poles in. That's also why the paint was only blue and white last year because they couldn't get gold paint in time. So we're gonna have gold paint this year, thankfully, somewhere on the court. We don't know. But yeah, so that was Yep.
Oh, buddy's perfect. Mr. Grant, I think we've talked a little bit about the strengths of this team, including Julia Bergman, who we'll talk more about in a little bit here, and Breland Morissette and Aaron Moss, who we should also mention as middle blockers. But I want you to tell me a little bit about their weaknesses.
Our team's weaknesses? I mean, last year it was very much service reception, and I would argue to say even more broadly defense. If you look how Tech kind of broke down, one stat that I think over the past year or two, this podcast has really come to appreciate is the wins probability added that Husker Geek, which is obviously a Nebraska account. They're great at volleyball. They've sold 80,000 tickets this year. So they think about volleyball a lot. Basically, they found a way to calculate WPA for volleyball. And it really must be stated that Tech almost certainly across the board was much stronger on the offensive side of the ball than the defense. Obviously, you have different players slot in different ways. Your defensive specialist, Paola Pimentel, you're going to expect her to be more of a defender. But really, just was interesting to see how much the team skewed one way versus the other. So I would broaden the service reception out to just general defense. I think where that kind of gets expanded is the talent of Julia Bergman minus the equally formidable Mariana Brambilla left for interesting ways that we were able to be defended. So I'm not saying that Julia in and of herself was a weakness, but not having the flip side of the coin on the other side of the court in kind of the same way as Mariana and Julia paired up previously, I think made for some interesting offensive alignment in which, or I guess defensive alignment against our offense, which, I mean, knock on wood, we have somebody to rise up and fill Julia Bergman's shoes, but hopefully a more balanced offensive attack will kind of address that in the same way.
That was a notable thing. Yeah, there was the teams that could guard us best were the ones that could like regularly get 2 or 3 people on Julia. That was just the way to do it. She still had games where she had 30 plus kills because she was Julia Bergman also at the same time and could just destroy anybody. And if you wanted to be in the way of that spike when it's on the ground, good luck with that. But if you can catch her at the net, much better things happen. And some teams were able to pull that off well. Some weren't. I think I remember being kind of worried that Wright State might be able to because they were like an exceptionally good digging team for whatever reason. But then I realized they played absolutely nobody until they played us. So that was,
I think the blocking is a big deal there too, as much as the digging, just being, if you have 3, I think Notre Dame is historically pretty good at that. Maybe that was 2 years ago, I'm thinking, because I don't think I saw Notre Dame play
we absolutely killed them last year.
Super effective on the net. Okay, so it was 2 years ago that I'm thinking of, but just really effective you know, like not even reception. It's just putting up hands and having the ball deflect in the way that you want it to go.
Yeah. And people knew the ball was going to her as well. Like she got most of the overwhelming, not the overwhelming majority, there's a lot of people on the court. She got the highest share by far of attacks to get, because they just knew that's how they would get out of games they were struggling in too. Like the Florida State reverse sweep, case in point. She got 38 kills because she was the only one doing anything that day. Now, as a team, they've said to me multiple times, you can hear on previous pods, that like they were just like, we're not going to deal with this getting swept crap again. Like that's just not happening. And they buckled down and figured it out. Actually, Paola Pimentel talks about it later in this podcast. But yeah, she was the one to just get the team out of bad situations. She was the cheat code. And that's kind of insane. I mean, it's not like Otani on the Angels where you just hope he just solves all the problems, but it was kind of like that. She was the one that could solve all the problems.
Well, see, the problem with the Angels is that.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say the problem with the Angels is that they are inordinately cursed by some sort of higher power.
They truly
are. Georgia Tech, less so, I would say.
Very much less so. Much less so. So yeah, I think.
I want to.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jack. I'm cutting in twice. Sorry, my bad.
No, you're fine. I mean, all that said, getting to the round of 32 where we got, I think in the end, didn't feel great, because I think we all knew that they were good enough to beat almost anybody. I would say almost anybody. I don't think he ever would have beaten. I don't think they were ever going to beat the top 3 teams come tournament time. They already played Pitt and Louisville 4 times. It never happened. San Diego going to kill them. Texas would have killed them. So I feel like they exited one round shy of where they probably should have when it was all said and done. Okay, Jake.
Yes. So, and I've been workshopping this take since we started this segment. I think if they had made it through the regular season and then hosted, we would feel different about last season.
Oh, yeah.
One, they would have gotten an easier draw in the second round, maybe a Sweet 16 appearance. This team was, I would say, you know, I've already made the no Mariana point, but like it was kind of ridiculous to expect them to just reload and do the exact same thing. And I think they performed about as well as we could have expected. I think that one round would have made a difference in terms of like meet expectation versus exceed expectation. I think my expectation was hosting. I don't want to move the goalposts on that. A host and/or Sweet 16 appearance there. So like I said, it wasn't a bad year at all. A 21-8 season is nothing to shake your head at. It's in line with some of the best regular seasons that Tech has ever had. So I don't want to put that out there. Also, for posterity's sake, I did look it up. October 6th, 2002 against Florida State was the Alexander Memorial game. 3,211 fans attended that. That was kind of Georgia Tech at the top of its game, if you will, in the Shelton, Collier, Boyd, Szymanski, basically 15-year run at the time. Tech was ranked, and I believe Florida State was ranked at the time as well. 03 was the year in which they would go on to go to the, I believe, Elite 8 in 03. Anyways, sorry to derail.
No. Let's get us back on track. We talked a lot about Julia Bergman, and I think we're going to do a little bit more about with her in this next piece, talking about who the major pieces that have left this team are in this past offseason. Julia Bergman, obviously, we'll circle back in a bit. Breland Morissette, who we've discussed. Aaron Moss, another one of those key middle blockers. Nicole Drunick, who played rotationally at the outside hitter spot, if I remember correctly. And Tally Marmon, who transferred in from UCF last year and was also a rotational piece as well. Mr. Purdy.
Drunick was Bella D'Amico's backup setter, actually, and slash help with defense. So she was basically, if they needed defense, she came in, added a little bit of height. Tally Marmon was what we thought was going to play a bigger role at outside hitter. Ended up not really. She didn't make many rotations in tougher games. Tamara today was the transfer last year that kind of did that more than anything. She had a pretty solid starting role by the end of the season, or by like the start of the season. But
Oh,
Yeah.
and Otene, I do want to say, was relatively strong on defense and Bertolino
Yep.
as well.
Yeah.
Just kind of stuck out because you would kind of expect your outside hitters to shine there. But Otene did definitely step into that role. Marmon played 14 sets, so definitely was more limited than we envisioned coming into the year.
Just to put some of these departures in perspective, the combined win probability added lost was 43, about 43 and a half. So about 44% of the team total. The combined sets played that the team lost from these departures, another 43%. 366 sets lost, and they lost 3 of their 7 starters from last season. And just to put that in perspective in terms of just starting lineup, they lost 309 sets and 42.6 win probability added. In our shot sheet, I have written, generally, you really don't want this to happen.
No.
It's not ideal, especially if you're losing effectively half of your offense. And to be clear, half of that half is coming just from Julia Bergman.
Yep.
It's pretty ridiculous. I'm not kidding. 25% of the team total win probability added ran through Bergman. So if you didn't think before that the entire team ran through her, you didn't believe us. I don't know what more to say, because that was
the goal. Feed Julia. That was the entire goal.
The drink, if you will.
Yeah, that was the entire goal. And let's note, COVID did affect some of these graduations also, and like who was around longer than they maybe would have, because both Breland and Aaron were 5th years last year. So they got to take advantage of that. So theoretically, they could have been gone 2 years ago. And then Julia, last year would have been Julia's legit final year, which it was her final year. She had the 5th available to her if she didn't. Decided to take 21 credit hours last semester so she could go play international volleyball and club volleyball in Turkey, which good for her. Like, she deserves the world because of what she did here. So, that affected some things there. So that's in some cases it's like a blessing and a curse, kind of in both ways there.
Well, and one thing you got to think about with the 5th year and COVID, especially in the context of fall sports and fall Olympic sports, is they got to play a normal fall 2019. Volleyball came back and played about a half season in the fall in 2020, and then another half season in the spring, including an NCAA tournament appearance in that 2020-2021 year. So, I mean, she played 4 normal years on not normal, obviously COVID, very different, but 4 seasons worth of volleyball at Tech. And sometimes when you're done with that degree, like, go on. It's the same thing we say about other transfers. So I'm not going to besmirch the folks for not sticking around. That said, the fact that we did have Moss and Morissette sticking around with some, I would say, sometimes underappreciated contributions up the middle, I think was a big part of what made the team click in its final form. And we definitely saw that snap together a little bit better down the stretch as well. Giant contributions from the two of them.
I want to read out some of her accolades from her Wikipedia page, which it kind of disturbs me that she has a Wikipedia page, but that's beyond the point. College accolades specifically: 2022 AVCA second team All-American, 2022 All-ACC first team, 2021 AVCA first team All-American, 2021 Volleyball Magazine first team All-American, 2020 AVCA All-American honorable mention, 2020 All-ACC first team, 2019 ACC Freshman of the Year, 2019 AVCA Regional Freshman of the Year, 2019 All-ACC first team, 2019 All-ACC All-Freshman team. And while she was in college, it should be noted, Brazilian national team, 2 silver medals at Volleyball Nations League. So, it's a very heavy trophy case, if nothing else.
She killed it. There's no 2 ways about it. We're gonna miss
her. Bad pun. Boo.
What? I don't even know what I said. Sorry, I'm not apologizing.
Killed it. Volleyball.
Oh, hell yeah, that was on purpose. Yes, great. She killed it. Yeah, no, we had the
Unbelievable.
time. I think I speak for the three of us. We had the time of our lives watching her play volleyball and see her go absolutely bananas on the court at times and hit balls so hard into the ground. I was worried they were going to put a hole in the ground, which I know is not possible with the dimensions of the ball in the court and everything. But it was nuts. Sad to see that era gone. But as we're going to get into these new players that are here, I think we're going to be all right. I think we're going to be all right.
All right. That
Mr.
sounds
Purdy.
like a good entryway. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say before you interrupted me, Mr. Purdy, walk us through these new acquisitions.
Alrighty, so we're gonna have the list of these up on our written preview, which will go up in a couple days, if not tomorrow. Whenever I get to it, I'm having problems at my house to keep my air conditioning running, so that's what's stopping me right now. So up the top, at top we have Larissa Mendez. She's gonna be an outside hitter. She or right side. She's like 6'3" or something like that, 6'3", 6'4". At the Golden White game, she was an app. I mean, we have multiple giants on this team, but she was just a giant. She's a freshman. I want to say she played at Flamengo. One of these girls, her or Eloise, played at Flamengo down in Brazil. But she's got power. She's got a lot of power, and it's a lot more. Like last year, she would have had the second most power behind Julia Bergman if she played for us last year. Like she has got it. She is tall. Because she is so tall, her serves can be flat and still get across over the net really well. She's not having to go from under the ball at all. And I assume will be a good blocking presence as well. Once we see some real competition, cannot wait to see her. Also, if anyone wants to just do anything, just stop talking or make me stop talking.
Before we move on, I want to add one note. Do you know what year this is? I hope this isn't going to come off as weird. Do you know what Larissa's birth year is?
This is already coming off as weird. So
it is coming off as
job.
weird. I'm just gonna note.
Okay, let's put it this way: how old do you think current freshmen are? What year were current freshmen born in?
2005. 2006.
2005.
2005. Okay.
I will let that sink in for our older listenership. But I did pull up Larissa's record on a site called volleybox.net, which I'm sure does not sound super weird. She was at Gerdau Minas.
That's right. Minas. Okay. Minas. That's right.
Georgia Tech. Before that, Minas Nautico, Club Campestre, Colegio Antares U18s, and then B&B Club. I don't know what any of those are, but I figured I would mention them. I assume they're all based in Brazil.
They are. I do know from the Potted in the Summer with Collier that Minas actually is coached by one of the legends of Brazilian volleyball. So she's been under some great tutelage. Let me shift down to Callie Engelman. She's been on the team already, but she had, I think, an ACL injury last year. It was something in her knee, so she was out on crutches all season. And the white and gold game was the first time I had seen her play at all. She was in a brace, but she played just fine. And she is going to be middle blocker and has that same height that both Aaron Moss and Breland Morissette had. I think she was supposed to be the third rotation piece there if she wasn't hurt last year, because she clearly has it in her to be great. And so I was really interested to see how she played, and she was clearly of rotation quality. So really excited to see her and see what she's going to do. Eloise Suarez what is she? Is she middle blocker too? Yeah, no, she's a setter. Also from Brazil. She's the one that played at Flamengo. So another Brazilian U19 international. Both Larissa Mendez and Eloise Suarez both played on Brazil's U19 team. So they're both effectively of the best of their age group in the entire country of Brazil, which that's insane for us to get. And so she was not my favorite coming out of the white and gold game. I don't know where she's going to be rotation wise. I want to see more from her, but she's going to fill in at setter. Zoe Winford also is going to be, she came in from Texas. She played at one of their big volleyball academies out in Texas. I think she went to high school in Dallas. And Zoe is going to be a defensive specialist / libero. I don't think she's going to get really any playing time because both Liz Patterson and Paola Pimentel are still here. So that'll be a book her, or we'll just shelve her until the time comes. Major signing we got was Liv Modric. She's from Olivia Modric. She is from North Carolina. She was she was all ACC freshman last year at North Carolina. And then we got her on her free transfer, and she is absolutely going to be our big time middle blocker this year. She's got a lot of height. She again really tall, has the power up front. Still moves well for how big she is. She's going to be great. Easily is going to start. No problems whatsoever. DeAndre Pierce, she came in. She actually played in the practice games in the spring. She was freshman transfer from Texas as well. She's in she's middle blocker as well. Not sure where she's going to land totally. So more on that later. Smiley Manyang, Afito Manyang is her proper name, but she goes by Smiley. She's a fifth year transfer from TCU, so she's doing her graduate stuff here. She has a hitter. She's middle blocker as well. She played a lot at TCU. She was one of their best over there when she was over there. She had some injuries last year, but she is going to be fantastic. She was lighting it up at the white and gold game. Really excited to see her play, and she's going to get some definite playing time. Also, just add some we lost both our middle blockers. We needed experience there, and we got 2 transfers to fill that role in. And we have some freshmen below that might get some time down there as well. So sorry for the long rant. There's a lot of people, but that's who we have. And honestly, between Mendez, Engelman, Bodridge, and Manyang, we're gonna be fine.
I think that's an important thing to note. Sorry, Akshay. Is really that question mark at the number 2 middle blocker. I think just looking at the stats and the experience against ACC teams, against teams that we're already playing, Mogridge really brings a lot to be excited about there. She had about 6 and change WPA, maybe close to 7. I'm doing this off the top of my head. When I looked, that's what it was. What it was slotted in. For context, Breland and Aaron both were at 9.7545 ish range. So obviously not a like for like. It's hard to replace 5th years with lots of experience, Elite 8, postseason, all that good stuff. But I think it's a pretty obvious number 1 slotting in there. And then it's really just a question mark, be it injuries and experience or both, how the rest of that's going to play out. But it's good to at least have one there. And I think we've got a lot of depth at some other key positions that we brought in that will kind of allow that to figure itself out. Hopefully, I mean, that's what the non-con is for, is it not?
Yeah, that's both. We'll hear what Collier and Pimentel say after we're done here, but that was their big note, was like the depth. They really like the depth that we have. They were really impressed by it. Like Collier outright says, like, yeah, I think I'm gonna be able to use a bigger rotation than I did in the past. Like, we're gonna be able to try some things, which is really promising. And based on who was playing at rotation level, based on what I mean, that's just my eyes. Who the heck knows if that was actually representative of what's really going to happen down the line. It looked like there was more people than we usually have. They're like, oh, okay, I've seen this level of talent play in real games for us, which was really cool to see. And like, still, we only lost 4 of our starters are still here from last year. We still have Bella D'Amico. We still have Tamara O today. We still have Paola Pimentel. We still have, I'm losing names off my head now. We have 4 of them. We still have them. So we have more weapons filling in than slots that we originally would use. So the middle blocker is better. We're taller. We're arguably stronger, honestly, too. So it's gonna be all right. It's gonna be all right. I don't know if that's gonna translate in the games, but they will not be a bad team.
Yeah, I mean, I think that sort of leads right into our discussion about what the expectations for this team are. Because they're not going to be bad by any stretch of the imagination. There's talent. There is proven talent, right? Some of these transfers, especially Modric, are very, very good and become highly touted. I was taking a look at some of her underlying numbers when she was at North Carolina, and yeah, some of the stuff here with win probability checks out. I mean, she had 2 really good games versus Louisville, a really good game versus Notre Dame.
That's good to see.
Duke. Yeah. So
yeah,
there is some, there are things to build on here. Not in like the football way when I say that there are things to build on. Like, there is a actual solid, like pretty high foundation, mostly built house that just kind of needs the finishing touches on top and that gelling part.
Yeah.
Right. But I think we should kind of know at the end of the day, like, there is a level of how do you expect and how do you adjust to now a second year in a row of losing the program's best ever player, right? Like that is a factor at the end of the day.
Yeah. That I mean, I asked Collier that question. I'm not going to try not to step on her as well for later, but that they got to figure it out. I mean, I think based on what I saw from Larissa Mendez and Smiley Manyang, and Bianca Bertolino as well, they all collectively, I think, have the talent to be not all the way to Julia, but collectively can be Julia. That's for sure, because they have the power, they have the movement, and they have the size.
Is it because they get on base?
They're you know what, they get walks, man. They get on base. They get walks. They steal some back. Okay, never mind. I'm done with that bit.
Thank you for playing along.
I couldn't do my best Jonah Hill too well. So no, I mean collectively from what the eye test, they passed with flying colors. That's for darn sure. Also volleyball in general, just getting better across the board. I'm not assuming that because just Tech maybe is better than they are. We don't really know what the ceiling is here because we have a lot of young people and just people that haven't played together yet. But I think expectation wise, we are the 4th ranked team right now in the ACC based on the preseason poll that came out there. I totally understand that by the fact that this is a team with experience that is simultaneously rebuilding at the same time. Like we are definitely preparing for next year with this year's team. That is totally happening. So my expectation is / prediction. I don't know if we're doing really predictions here, but I think our expectation
No. We do expectations first. We lay out the ground rules. We build a framework. We're getting there.
Framework is we should expect some very tough ACC games, probably more than we used to. We got to do Pitt twice. We got to do Louisville twice again.
Schedule coming soon. Come on, man.
I mean,
we'll read the schedule in a minute. Like we can't get ahead of ourselves.
This is the framework, though. This is the framework. It's who we play.
I want to give because I want to give Jake a
Jake,
chance
go ahead.
to respond too.
I'm clearly failing at this. So Jake needs to talk.
Well, I want to come back to something that he was saying when we were recapping last season. Is that we looked at this team as hosting it's not really a regional in volleyball, but hosting NCAA tournament games. Does the absence of Julia Bergman and the addition of these additions make you waver from that same prediction for 2023 is where I'm going, Mr. Grant?
No, I don't think so. No, I'm going to be unequivocal in my statement that I think the expectation for this team should be to be a top 4-ish ACC team and to be in the mix for hosting. Obviously, that's going to shake out different depending on the year, but a top 25 caliber team in the mix to host should be the expectation for this team. I know that we are losing one of the greatest players this program has ever seen. I think we have had the benefit of having a lot of great players over the years. And I think that in order to have the kind of program that we think Michelle Collier is capable of building, and one that she has by all means shown that, she has been able to build up to 2016, build up to 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22. Like sustaining that is an important part of having that kind of program. I think our expectations should be pretty close to what they were. I will say, I will characterize this with, there are some question marks that need to get figured out. It's not a slam dunk, but I don't know. My expectations are reasonably high. I don't think this team is as good raw talent wise or in terms of the knowns. But then again, Jack, you were there on Sunday.
Yeah,
so
you say raw say raw talent. Our raw talent is fantastic. It is fantastic. I do not. Yeah. I think we're totally set there. I need to reiterate my Bianca Bertolino bit that I messaged y'all on Slack. This girl got strong. Like last year, she was effectively like what the number 3 outside hitter for us behind Julia and Tamara. Then it was her. She was more playing a defensive role and serving decently well and really good on digging. This girl's got the Kayla Kaiser serve now. For those that remember the serve where you just throw it about 35 feet in the air with some topspin and then just smack the living crap out of it when it comes down. And she only practiced that during warm-ups. I had never seen her. She did not do this once last season, like not even once. And she was she was hitting absolute missiles across the court. She didn't miss during warmups. She finally missed 2 in the game and did 1 drop serve just to test it out and stuff like that. There was a lot of gimmicks going on during the game, just to kind of just feel out some other tricks and stuff while no one was watching that from another team. But yeah, and her just normal kill speed, so much better. It's so much better. Like, of all the people that have leveled up on this team, she by far, like, I cannot stress enough, is hitting the ball so much harder now. I really wish we had a radar gun there last year to measure Julia's speed, because I can't really tell that much from the eye test. They're not side by side anymore, so that's makes it even harder. But we have a serve weapon now that we didn't have last. Like, Kayla was gone, we didn't have that bring her into spot serve. We have that level talent in our regular rotation now. Also, Larissa is tall and Liv is tall, and they can serve pretty well too. So that in terms
I
of
just don't want
that raises my floor expectations, because that tells me this team was working hard during the offseason to get better too. And not everyone that was already in the team is going to make the team, is like going to play again this year. Like Anna Boezi, probably not. Cara Bianco, probably not playing. Lauren Sandin, probably not playing. But they were all working. So
I gotta say, I don't want to sound like I have an addition by subtraction mindset, particularly when it comes to Bergman, because I honestly don't. Great player. But I mean, if they can figure out the outside hitting, like you said, they got the raw talent. I don't think we change our expectations of the team. I think, Pitt and Louisville remain quite daunting at the top of the conference. I really was trying to find the ACC talk or ACC volleyball talk Twitter account, because they had made some great resources last year, but I couldn't find it. But because I was going to look for some stats that they had pulled together previously.
I think they've left Twitter.
Rats. I was going to say I didn't even see the account, let alone like recent posts. But anyways, all that said, I think Louisville and Pitt are as good as ever. Miami's got an easier schedule, but they were good last year. They were a tournament team for a reason. I don't think it's anything to shake a stick at in terms of difficulty. The ACC has gotten a lot better. I think it's a testament to, a 24-8 really good Georgia Tech team was out of the tournament in fall of 2016. And, now losing, 4 or 5 conference games in the ACC doesn't put you out of tournament contention. So no matter who it is, we've got a top half of the conference that's really pretty excellent. And we can say a little bit about the bottom needing to step it up a little bit, but it's a new year. I haven't done my research on Syracuse or Boston College volleyball yet, but in terms of what I know about the top half, your Miami, Florida State, Big Three, Duke, North Carolina, they're always in the mix, and they're always going to be. Like, that's just how they play. They've got good programs.
Now it's time for the ceremonial reading of the schedule, something that we've all been looking forward to. We also have some rankings, the 2023 final Viper rankings from Husker Geek as well attached to these. Mr. Purdy, start us off.
To start, we start the season in Tampa, where we also hope to end the season, as that is where the Final Four is being played at the Tampa Invitation.
It's an Amelie? It's an Amelie?
What? I don't know what
the arena.
Arena?
Amway.
Amelie Arena.
No,
Amway's in Orlando.
No, that's Orlando.
Amway's in Orlando.
No, I honestly have no idea where they're playing these games. We start with USF, which is Michelle Collier's alma mater. I believe she's like their best. She might be their best player ever. I could be completely wrong here.
I would say so.
She's up there. So we start with them, 2-5 in Viper last year, and then the next day we play Penn State, who is I think already like in the preseason top 10 for volleyball. So that's going to be an extremely early, fantastic test for us to see if, I think, measuring the raw talent more than anything than where are we at that time. So that's going to be big. And then the next weekend, we should have put some dates on here. Sorry.
We should have, but let me take over real quick so I can lead us into the next couple months of the schedule. In a very bizarre circumstance, volleyball will do an away versus Ohio State. Don't know how that worked out, but they're playing Ohio State in Ohio State back-to-back nights. I think on a Friday and a Saturday, and then that leads right into a tournament at Florida A&M, where they'll play South Alabama, Stetson, and the aforementioned Florida A&M. Some notable rankings from there. Ohio State, obviously number 8. They were a bugaboo on the schedule last year for Tech, and played Tech in the Elite 8 the year before. South Alabama 73, and that's honestly the highest that it gets in that 4-game stretch. Mr. Grant, talk to me about the GT Classic.
Honestly, I want to make one point about South Al first. 73 is real good for a Sun Belty non P5 team. So that's good to see. But in terms of the GT Classic, we do have the folks from out east. That is Friday, September 15th. I know that date off the top of my head. I'm not even looking at the schedule. I'll be there. You all should be there. That's
home opener.
If you're going to circle one. I was going to say the home opener.
Yeah, they do not play it.
Which is weird.
Until mid-September.
It's weird because in the past, Tech has had 2 or 3 invitationals. I believe one year we had like the Tech Hyatt Invitational and then the Tech Hyatt Regency Invitational the next week, or something like that. but no. So the GT Classic opening with a Friday night at the basketball arena against the folks from out east. I know that. Seems like all the other home games are sold out, but that one's not, but it very well could be, knowing how large of a fan base both teams have, how easy it is for folks to make that trip. If you're going to circle one, make it a Friday night, come down into the city. Football is away on Saturday, so it wouldn't even be back-to-back weeks if you are a football season ticket holder. Howard is in the middle on Saturday. It's kind of a difficulty sandwich, if you will. Howard's about 210th in the country last year. And then San Diego, Final Four participant, top 10 in Viper as well.
Number 3 team in the country. Number 3 team in the country.
Per the coaches, the numbers have them a little lower, but they're the best mid-major in the country. I mean, it's simply put, they're a great team to get into our building, and it's quite an interesting perspective to see how all of our non-con scheduling has changed as the team has gotten better. That the team that I alluded to, kind of being the comeback up, if you will, the fall 2018 Georgia Tech team, they rattled off, and I want to get the exact number right, so I'm going to vamp for just a second. But they've rattled off a program record number of wins to start the season, or something close to it. But those opponents were Idaho State, Winthrop, Abilene Christian, Georgetown, Alabama State, Wofford, South Al, Tulane, Northern Illinois. They lost one to Bama, one to Marshall on the road in Tuscaloosa, and then beat Georgia, Arkansas again to close out the non-con. This is a very different schedule than that one, to say the very least. I do think it is worth noting that San Diego game is back in O'Keefe. So shame not to have 2 games at McCamish, but at least there's the one. Is that enough on the GT Classic, Akshay? Yes.
I will add that obviously, putting the rivalry game at McCamish, you kind of know where your bread is going to be buttered for that one. So I don't necessarily fault the decision to move the other 2 games back into O'Keefe, and Yeah, and I hope that because this is usually like a kind of a round robin situation, I assume that the other games that are not the rivalry game will be also played at O'Keefe. But
yes, that's correct. That is correct. Michelle, actually,
fantastic.
I asked Michelle about this later, and I will save the answer for the ad interview.
Oh,
fantastic.
Well, I haven't listened to that yet. That does me no good, Jack. Come on.
Absolutely.
Now I gotta listen.
You haven't listened to it yet because it's tacked on to the end of this. Spoiler alert. Let's talk about the beginning of the ACC slate. They'll start on the road at Clemson. Clemson is 129th in the nation in Viper. Then they'll go to NC State, a top 60 team. Then out to Blacksburg to face Virginia Tech, a 126th again from VT. They'll play Wake, top 100. And then October 6th at Pittsburgh, number 10 in the final Viper rankings of last year. They're scuffling a little bit through the offseason, if I remember correctly. They had a massive senior class leave, and they'll also be retooling. My gut feeling is that Tech can probably be playing with their food, so to speak, until about right here in the schedule. But when you go up to Pittsburgh,
I mean,
you probably
I gotta feel like the San
go for
Diego
it.
match is gonna be like, if you're gonna
Yeah.
circle like this is the definitely like the best chance of us losing all season. I think it's honestly that game. Like it's at least in this first half. Like it's that. I could totally understand us losing
I
to Penn
can
State.
find way more places where they could
I mean, yeah.
possibly lose.
I
I
mean,
was
yeah.
about to say.
I mean, like Penn State, Ohio State, yes, like absolutely. But like in terms of like, I'll be shocked. Like to be brutally honest, if we win, it'll be a massive, massive upset. We can believe beating Ohio State, even at Ohio State. We beat them neutral site before. Like they know how to do that. Home, even though it's home, it's in O'Keefe. It is the absolute pressure cooker that place is against. It's San Diego is stupid good. Like they are absurdly good.
No, and I agree. I'm not disputing that, and I think Jake is totally right in saying, like, I mean, it's not an opinion that they were in the Final Four last year, and it's also not necessarily.
No, it's not. That's a fact.
It's a literal fact, and also his opinion that they are the best mid-major volleyball team in the nation is also not untrue. So, like,
yeah, they played in the WC.
I totally admit that.
They played in the WCC.
But that being said, I think the where Tech is going to have its tournament resume made for it is how it shapes up. I mean, it's going to do well against the bottom 75 percentile of the ACC. But
Yeah,
where
sure.
it's bread gets buttered, to use that metaphor again, is this game versus Pitt, and then that back stretch, which we'll talk about in a bit. To me, this is sort of the have you figured yourself out moment, right?
Yeah.
You've had a test in San Diego, you've had a test in Ohio State, you've had a test in Penn State, but now are you ready to actually get down to business and at the midpoint of the year and say, okay, we are going to be a competitive tournament host team, or we are going to simply make the tournament team or something else, right? Like that's where like this team defines itself, in my opinion. So
I do want to say, I don't think you can lose the losable games with how much of the games on the schedule are painful.
Yeah, it's
even if we're looking at last year's top 10, you got 2 against Ohio State, 2 against Louisville, 2 against Pittsburgh just off the bat, and 1 against San Diego. That's 7 extremely losable games right there. You got to imagine you got to pick up 1 or 2 of those in a good world. I think anything else would be kind of nuts. Penn State, maybe that's more coin flippy, but really, if you want to be a host, you got to take care of business with the rest of the schedule. Maybe you slip up once. I know in the past, whether it's Miami or Notre Dame, maybe Notre Dame bounces back this year. They were untraditionally low last year, but usually there's some sort of Florida State's a tournament quality team, Miami's a tournament quality team. Maybe something happens there, but I don't know if the expectation is to be another host team. I don't see 8 wins or 8 losses. 8 wins definitely would not do the trick.
Nope,
But
no.
We've seen it. The line in the sand, 7 losses in the regular season keeps you out. I know a loss is not one in the same, depending on who's giving it. But just take care of business in the others. And again, if you're sitting pretty going into Syracuse, the Syracuse home game at the end of the year, I don't know if we've gotten that far on the schedule yet. We probably have not.
Nope.
It is worth noting we play at Miami and home against Syracuse in the second to last weekend of the year. That's pretty unusual and will be a little bit of a tough turnaround to be in Miami's building before coming back home. But and then we want to be in a good spot heading into at Louisville to close the year, because going into the LNN Federal Credit Union House of Pain is not generally a recipe for success.
Yeah. So let's talk about that run in right after that Pitt game and into Louisville real quick. You mentioned the Miami and Syracuse games towards the tail end. FSU, Miami, Duke, UNC. That's right after UVA or Pitt, then UVA, and then those 4. And then at Boston College, at Syracuse, Louisville the first time, Notre Dame. Those are both in the same weekend, and those are both at home. Hosting Pitt the weekend after that, and then your aforementioned at Miami versus Syracuse, and then at Louisville to end the year. That run in that like first
It's-
Louisville game
it's
through the
insane.
last Louisville game is miserable.
It's
Like
insane.
based on travel, based on competition, like that is miserable. That Miami team, I believe, is the third team ranked in the coaches poll or the
They're third.
ACC
Yeah.
coaches
Yeah.
rankings, whatever.
Yeah.
So and they placed above Tech in the ACC rankings last year, I think in the final rankings. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. But it's rough. Like that back half of the slate, especially if you talk about FSU and Miami and back to backs. I mean, you can sort of wave a hand maybe at UNC, Boston College, and Syracuse. But like Jake was saying, you have to win the winnables. And yeah, like it's going to be miserable. Like the back, it's miserable. Like there's no better way to say it.
I got to make one point. I do disagree with you on a semantical point there. The last 6 games are, I would say, aren't that bad for travel. 4 of them are at home. Miami, for all us saying that away and or all me saying that away and home in the same weekend is tough. Well, Miami's only an hour flight and they're going to fly it. Louisville's only an hour flight and they're going to fly it. So I don't think those are
they'll be fine. Also, that
in terms of the travel, but I mean.
And that Louisville game is on a Wednesday. It's right before Thanksgiving. Like that's effectively just the holiday getaway game, kind of in a sense there. So they'll be all right.
Yep.
That stretch after the first Pitt game in October, when you go all the middle of the pack ACC, like quite honestly, we cannot lose any of those games. Like FSU and Miami will be tough. We had some struggle points there last year as well. Thankfully, we have them at home this year and not on the road.
Mm-hmm.
Although we have to play Miami twice, that's a new factor this year. But yeah, for those the FSU, Miami, Duke, UNC, all at home in a row is I want us to win 12 straight sets and not even think about it. Just get it done. Just get it done. And BC and Syracuse be just fine as well on the road there on that road trip. But yeah, I mean, it'd be amazing if we could come on a roll when we play Louisville at home, having won like 6-7 matches in a row. Maybe however, we'll see how that Pitt game goes. But like, we are set up for success there in a sense by just having a schedule that lets us be on a roll and gain a whole lot of confidence before it is just punch after punch after punch of a game, except for when we play Syracuse again.
I gotta say, the wise folks at the ACC, I don't know if this is Michelle's doing. She seemed to have asked for the hard schedule. I believe that was a direct quote from a previous interview Jack has done with her. But I will note that Pitt and Louisville do not get Miami twice, whereas Tech gets all of the top 3 preseason ACC teams in their schedule this year. So, that's if anyone's got the hardest schedule, I haven't done the math for top to bottom, but it's got to be hard to beat, getting 6 games against the top 3. I will note a weird Jake historical schedule nerd guy observation. We've traditionally always had one of our home and home pairings be against Clemson. This is really the first time that I can recall that it hasn't been. Maybe I just forgot last year because we played them at home or something like that. But a little weird not to see them cropping up twice in the schedule. But who knows?
It's a setup for ACC expansion.
Something like
set up for expansion.
Something like that. I'll read one quote from the interview that's also in our written preview that Collier said. She said, "This is the schedule required to do what we need to do." And that was to not take steps backwards. She views this schedule as one
pretty metal.
It is. This is a schedule. I mean, that's how she sees RPI is extremely, extremely important. And I guess Viper kind of mirrors that as well. So, yeah.
She said, "Do not give us the easy one."
No, don't. Yeah, I mean, don't give us the easy one. Granted, we have like that weekend at FAMU, which will not exactly be terribly difficult. In all honesty, but yeah, I mean, once a month at least, if not more often and more often, like there is a game that can very well be maybe the point that our season hinges on. Did we win this particular game? Is that what changes trajectories? Like there's a lot of those moments, and I think having a lot of opportunity for those moments is that's great. That's going to give for these freshmen a lot of great chances to grow up quickly and be ready for NCAAs.
I think that about rounds out our preview in terms of the schedule. Gentlemen, prediction time. You don't have to give me a record. Feel free to give me a postseason finish. Jake, I think you already stated that yours is they host. They're a top 4 seed. Jack,
That's my
what you got for me?
expectation. That's not my prediction, but
Well, look,
okay.
I lied about those being 2 different things. That's the magic of being the producer on this show. I can do that.
Let's just let Jack talk and we can argue semantics later.
I mean,
But I like arguing semantics.
this podcast would not be the same without semantics, wouldn't it? I agree the sentiment that posting should be the expectation. The team has reiterated multiple times they want to win the ACC. I do not predict they will do that. I do think they're going to finish at best third again in the ACC, just plain and simple. Even with Pittsburgh effectively fully retooling, but they're Pittsburgh. So I want to say get through the first round of the NCAA tournament. I think we can get through the second round of the NCAA tournament, no matter who it is, because I could see us being about in the same spot as we were last year. And then once we get to round of 16, we'll see who we get. If we're in that 5 seed range, that means we're getting another great team again. That's probably on our schedule anyways. So my prediction is we're going to get to the round of 16. From there, the rest is absolutely gravy for me. I don't want to jinx us or anything like that, even though I know I don't care about that kind of thing. But I think round of 16 is where I see us going.
Okay, Mr. Grant, give me your actual prediction versus your expectation.
I think my prediction is 4th in the ACC based on schedule alone. Miami, you lucked out. Congrats. Jazz fans. I think we're going to be a 5 or 6 seed again this year. I just think the schedule is extremely difficult. I don't think a Sweet 16 is necessarily a gimme, but certainly in the realm of possibility. I think kind of a philosophy, unless you are an odds-on favorite, unless you are, oh gosh, I'm not going to use that example. Let me think of a different one. Unless you're GT Golf, I don't think saying, all right, you must win the regional, or we expect you to win the regional, is something that we're necessarily in a position to do. Or most sports at most schools are.
We did that for baseball, technically.
If you're getting into the round of 32, but winning the tournament or winning the regional is different than hosting the regional or going to the regional. Anyways, if you're into the round of 32,
Can I interrupt you?
That's gravy. So let's. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. But all that said, 4th in the ACC, and I think a round of 32 appearance. This is the tournament team for certain, or should be expectations.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm going to be the pessimist to both of you. I think I'm going to set the bar at tournament. I'm going to go 5th in the ACC.
Who's your team jumping us? That's not Miami.
Florida State.
Okay.
Maybe like they could be. I think they'll stick in that 3 to 5 range. Just it really depends on where how Pitt is this year and how they retool. FSU is always a feisty like number 5 or number 6, and Miami is always a feisty 4 or 5. So really, you're just sort of shuffling the deck of cards behind Louisville, who is going to be a buzzsaw for the most part. Pick your poison there, but I think, like Jake said, it should be a tournament team, and I think I would need data points, at least like the opening weekend of data points, to say anything more. Like I would love to just sort of fire off a take here, but it really comes down to how they gel and how they deal with not getting those double teams on Bergman anymore, but at the same time, like how they deal with not having her production available. At the end of the day, you're trying to rebuild star players with points instead of runs, to borrow a Moneyballism. So how effectively they do that, I think we give them 2 or 3 games, and then I'll feel more comfortable about naming a round. I don't know.
Fair.
Once y'all see them in person, I think y'all have some better clarity on what makes sense in your brains with what's already there. Which I know I'm the only one here that's got that advantage right now, so slightly unfair for me to have that, but hopefully y'all get to see the game. Actually, I know we're not going to be able to see this Sunday's game, so but
No TV. Oh no, they're in. Is it closed doors this weekend?
no, we have a previous
Saturday.
arrangement. It's on Sunday. We have a previous arrangement with one of our co-hosts.
Yes, I do remember that. Yes. So we will. I mean, we'll
I get
catch up
it.
with
I
this
didn't
team
look at
once
the volleyball schedule before I scheduled something. It's okay. Okay. We'll live.
It's fine. It's fine. We
It's
forgive
fine.
you. But I think that about does it for our preview. Like we said, the first home game for this team, for this Georgia Tech volleyball team, is the Georgia Tech Classic, the rivalry game versus those out east, from out east. That will be September 15th. That is also, God, so much stuff the same weekend. That's the same weekend as Tech at Ole Miss in football. Lionel Messi and Atlanta on that Saturday, and then also Packers and Falcons on Sunday. So
oh my God, I might be. I'll be everywhere that weekend. Oh my God. Jesus.
Yeah, you can really just book a hotel, stay in town for the whole weekend, and catch up on a lot of sporting.
I hope that Falcons game is at like 4:00 because I would really like to somehow manage to go to all of those games. I could do it. I could do it.
Think the Falcons are already scheduled for one.
Dang it! And it's San Diego.
Also, what do you mean 4:00? What game is
the football game? Could be the Falcons could be at 4:00, which if that's at 4:00, that means that I can still get from O'Keefe to Mercedes if they finish in O'Keefe in reasonable time.
Okay. I forgot that they have another game. But yeah, so that's the first home game. Yeah, I think that's about it for a preview. We do have an interview that Jack did with Coach Michelle Collier and Paola Pimentel, who's a junior.
Fifth year.
Libero
Fifth year.
This is
her final semester.
She's a transfer.
Tech. Yeah, she was a transfer. She spent 2 seasons.
Transfer and eligibility math. I have just like
JUCO transfer. JUCO transfer.
This is the last year. The last year of COVID. COVID years, by the way. I learned that recently. This is the last year.
This is it.
But anyway, before we get to that, Mr. Grant, talk to us about Section 103.
Yes, Section 103. It's Georgia Tech's Georgia Techiest apparel brand. Nothing new since we updated you last week, but they've still got a bunch of great options for Georgia Tech stuff that you can get. My first and still my favorite Section 103 shirt is I'm a Ramblin' Wreck from Georgia Tech and a hell of an engineer. It is quite a good shirt. It's soft, it's comfortable. It is navy, but it's got the fight song lyrics on it, and I'm pretty sure that's the only place that you can get it quite like that, big and bold, and really laid out for everyone to see. Definitely recommend their stuff. As always, free shipping on orders over $70 every day, and feel free to check them throughout the year. And in the meantime, vote on the poll to help decide what gets printed next. Yeah, Jack, over to you for the interview.
As we try to do with all of our sport previews, get someone from the team or around the team. And of course, I guess the most frequent guest now we have from everywhere in the Tech sphere that works at Tech in some fashion. Volleyball head coach Michelle Collier is here. I think this is round 5. So hey, by the time we get to round 12, we'll see who's still standing by the end, or if we need to go to the table for that. But thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no, always a pleasure. So thanks for having me.
Of course. Last we talked, I think I remember I ended it saying, I hope you see some good movies. So did you see Barbenheimer? Did you do both in the same day, or either of them or none of them?
Oh, I have not seen them.
Oh no. All right. You got some very happy times. Very tense times with Oppenheimer, but Barbie's y'all are gonna love it.
Yeah, the team watched it actually. So they
nice.
Pink Day went out to watch it, so that was fun.
That's cool. That's awesome. Y'all were just in Florida for preseason camp. I assume that seemed to go pretty well based on what at least was fed on the social medias. But how was that time for y'all to just get some early team bonding before the season?
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I mean, we decided to do our team retreat before we reported camp, so we went to Florida for a couple weeks earlier. We worked with our sports psychology department here, and we just kind of created a lot of team building, personal development, just trying to pretty much lay the foundation on some of the things we'll we foresee, working through during the season and working together as a team. And it was just a really great opportunity, beautiful place to be out there, awesome weather. So it was nice to just kind of get going out there, and we're excited to have everybody here and to get rolling. So it's been a good couple practices already, and we got a great group, great people. So we should be able to continue what we have laid the foundation for. So it's exciting.
You kind of snuck into one of my later questions, so I'm going to ask it now then. Does it feel like, with the number of departures you've had and then a large number of arrivals as well, does it feel like the culture is just a continuation of where y'all left off from last season, or is there some new elements that y'all are figuring out your way through?
Yeah, no, there is always new elements. I think that's one of my favorite parts about the job, but it's never the same. It's pretty dynamic. But I think our core values are the same, the things that we're doing, how we believe we can achieve our results and our goals, individual and as a team, are things that stay consistent. So maybe the way to get there we might have to adapt a little bit depending on the group and the personalities and strengths and weaknesses that we have. But I think that, there are solid things that continue to be there. So it's always fun. It's always fun to kind of manage. I know that we're going to a big rebuild this year. I mean, we had players that have played and started for us for a very long time, with losing Julia, Aaron, and Breland. Those are three big pieces of what we have been doing the last 4 years. And so they left it at a great spot. I think that we have great people behind them to keep this moving forward. And obviously our goal is to continue to get better. So the challenge is bigger. But the opportunity is also more exciting, so we have a great group of players that are here that have learned about what it takes to compete at this level. So I'm excited to see what we can put together out there.
I'm excited to see them too with the practice games coming up as well. You mentioned Julia. She's been all over the world this summer doing Nations League, got a contract with the Turkish team. How has that been, just watching her immediately just completely take off after graduating? And she was taking 21 credit hours in the spring, which is, as a tech grad, ridiculous to do. Like, there's no two ways about it. How has it been for you just seeing her absolutely take off in the world?
Yeah, no, it's been awesome. We knew that was her goal, and we were happy and privileged to be a part of it, be a part of her journey. And an important part of it, I think Georgia Tech was a place where she grew a lot as a person and as a player. And it has definitely was able to uplift her to new heights and the next level. And that's what we hope for. When players come in and they have high aspirations, whether it's with the sport or with their careers in life after that. But to see that come through, it's pretty awesome. We actually got a chance this summer to go to Arlington, what the VNL was that she was playing, and our whole staff went out there. One, to watch great volleyball and to be around great volleyball minds and learn and develop. But also on top of that, kind of the cherry on top was to be able to see Julia, kind of catch up with her, spend some time with her, see her compete at that level. So it was a pretty special moment for us as a staff, and it was pretty cool that we had the opportunity to do it. And then she's going to do great things. I mean, obviously, she's got a long journey ahead of her, but we're happy that we were a part of it, and we're definitely that she's had big fans on us, so we're going to be supporting and we'll be here for whatever she needs. But it's exciting to see how well she's doing.
Yeah, for sure. And from her team last year and Aaron Breland, all that, is from just the entirety of last year, is there a takeaway from that whole season that you're finding really relevant right now as you prepare, or what you might implement going into the season?
Yeah, no, I just think it's a reassurance that success is hard. It's when you establish yourself as one of the best teams in the country, the grind is tough. People come in and you're no longer the underdog, and there are expectations, and there are certain things that you just have to normalize because of what you achieved. And I think that we normalize winning, we normalize playing at a high level here at Georgia Tech. And with that, it comes, a lot of pressure and expectations, and we have to, again, normalize these things. It's part of it, and that's what we work for. And so I thought that last year was something that we had to, kind of backing up from an Elite 80 year to last year, like this was kind of the things that I thought we had to learn how to manage as the coaching staff, as a group, and to, put us in a better place for this year and the expectations for this year as well. And just kind of normalizing, hey, yeah, like we're a good program. We're here. We're not going to keep surprising people all the time. Like now people are going to expect that we put a good product on the floor. And that's our responsibility, is to be able to go out there and work through what we need to work through to make sure that we're competing and playing good volleyball when, we need to.
Yeah. About competing, you mentioned last year, like getting high level opponents was a big deal for RPI boosts and stuff like that. Seems like you did the job again this year between, the ACC naturally is going to give you some, but then you throw San Diego in there as well. Can you tell me some about what the strategy was behind building this year's schedule, and what your goal? Oh, and Ohio State too. Yeah, back to back against Ohio State. That sounds exceedingly difficult, but also fun at the same time. So, I mean, what was your thought process behind building it this year?
Yeah, it's again, I don't think we can take steps back, even though I think we'll be a lot younger than last year, and we're going to be working through some things. It's still, this is the schedule required to do what we need to do, and to be where we want to be. So I think that was kind of just moving forward, was I felt like we've, you kind of like when you play video games and you up a level, when you up a level, like our program is up a level, and that's the schedule that we're going to have to face if we want to be in the NCAA, competing for ACC championships, having a chance to host, first and second rounds, continue to go deep in the tournament. So it is what it takes. And our players have to learn that from day one, right? And so I think that we can't really sugarcoat it for them, and we got to put ourselves out there and compete and see what happens. I think that it's a huge challenge with this group, the schedule, because we'll be young and we'll have a lot of new players, and also players that are going to have to increase their role and have more responsibility. And we need to see how they're going to respond to that. But it is what it is, right? If we want to do what we're going to do, I think that we've been preparing ourselves, and we definitely trust our players and know that they can play and compete at that level. And we're going for it. So we're not backing down from the challenges, and hopefully it will pay off at the end of the year. But I think that this is what it takes to be at the level that we want to be at. And it's a great opportunity, some great programs. It's exciting to bring a San Diego here to Atlanta for, fans to have an opportunity to see that level of volleyball from outside the conference, and to be able to go to Ohio State. They have an awesome home court advantage and a facility and a great volleyball atmosphere. So for our players to be able to compete there, to get a chance to play UGA and McCamish and really do some great things over there, like those are all awesome opportunities for us to continue to grow the game, grow our program, and challenge our players and do the things that we need to do to be the team that we believe we can be.
With the new faces y'all have, I mean, I know it's really early on, but have you gotten at least some sense of how they're going to fit with this year's team, or do you still need the next couple of weeks to really get a good sense of where like Larissa and Smiley are going to end up playing?
Yeah, no, I think we kind of have an initial idea, but obviously with the day-to-day and just kind of being in the gym more often, seeing how everybody responds to situations, and start to kind of build, what we think it's best and how we think it flows best, or where our strengths and weaknesses are. I think we're very deep in our roster. I think that we have more depth than we ever had in all the positions. And so I think that will be a different scenario for us to deal with as coaches. And it's exciting, to be able to just have a gym full of players that we feel can win as matches, and so it'd be really cool to go through this season like that. I feel like this season, because we'll be a mix of young and also new to our system, and then some veterans who have been in our system, will be interesting to see how all that kind of plays together, and then how we see it all coming together. But we have great players. They've been doing a great job. They did awesome this summer with our strength coach and their open gyms, and they've really, we could see it from day one. We were able to kind of hit the ground running and do a lot of things in practices that this first practices that maybe in the past we weren't able to do it because their bodies weren't ready or they had, and now they did a good job really preparing to put us in a position that's a little more ahead of where we had been in years previous. So it's been cool. I mean, I'm excited, but yeah, no, I have no idea what we're going to do yet, but that's a good place to be.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, I think you gotta have at least the floor to start with, and then go from there. Tell me about Vinny Bygon, who y'all added to the staff, and what he's going to be doing.
Yeah, Vinny's it's been great. He's came in as our recruiting coordinator, so he's really helping us just get organized in some things, focus on our future classes, 25 and 26, and so 25 and beyond. Just really building that rapport. Identify talent here in the States and internationally, and how do we keep kind of targeting the best players in the world to be a part of Georgia Tech volleyball. So he's awesome. A guy that has tons of experience. He's really been able. They had a great program at UT Rio Grande, and he was an important part of that. A lot of responsibilities, not only on the court, but a lot of stuff off the court too, that he helps us. He's super organized, and just a guy that's, he's ready to do whatever, any job. And he's been a pretty great addition to our staff and to our team. Great personality, just brings in a good positive vibe to him. And we'll be better with him.
Awesome. That's good to hear. With you mentioned starting the season in McCamish, which sounds just awesome for a Friday night game. Would y'all maybe try to flex a second game in there if the schedule works out, or is it dead set there's only gonna be one in there this year?
Right now, I think it's dead set. It's only gonna be one. We were debating a lot this summer, but with everything else that we got going on at McCamish, it only feel like. I think for us, like when we play there, we want to have good preparation to play there because we don't play that space for a long time, and so we don't want that to end up not being a home court advantage for us.
Right.
With the spatial awareness and all that, we know our fans are gonna show up and support us. So I feel like the energy will be there, but it's so if there are other things going on that we can't really get the time that we feel it's essential for us to prepare, then we decided to stay at OP for those moments. And so
gotcha.
So we're excited. We're even very grateful that we get a chance to play one match there. I thought last year was awesome. And I think this year will be great too. And we're looking forward to hopefully breaking the attendance record that we set last year at McCamish.
I don't think y'all have a problem doing that. I think it'll be easy enough. Before we get to the end here, y'all have definitely risen Tech volleyball to a much bigger prestige level than it was when you initially got here, and even since I was in school a few years ago. Have you noticed the Tech name gaining more prestige when you're around coaches in the country and just in other general volleyball circles that see what y'all are doing and are like, oh wait, yeah, if Tech's even attached to someone's name, that's a good thing now, like a really good thing?
Yeah, for sure. I think that we definitely have validated our brand, and the things that we're doing. I think that our results speak for the things that we're doing every day in the gym. And obviously every coach in the country wants to win and do better. And so if there are programs that are winning and growing and is succeeding, people become curious about and try to understand, okay, what are they doing there that it's working, and I think that definitely we're definitely one of the programs that people talk about and they want to learn from. But our job is we can't worry too much about that stuff. I think that we're excited. We're definitely grateful. I think that even within our conference, everybody has been very respectful of our job and what we're doing. And so as professionals, we definitely value that, that the community sees that we're doing a good job for the sport and growing the game and doing it in a positive way, for our players. I think that's one of the biggest things we're most proud of is that it's not just what we're doing, but how we're doing it. And so it's been great. I mean, I think that we love the game. We want to keep growing the game and to be in the conversations of being one of the premier programs in the country, it's always important to us because we want to do volleyball at a high level and we want to do it, in a great way. And so a lot of places we go, love watching your team, love watching them compete. Yes, I saw it. And, we can go to a recruiting event and the players are going to know who we are and what school we go for and why we're there. And so it's been great. It's really helped us with recruiting and just kind of with our footprint around the country and even around the world. Like we went to the VNL and people from Japan were, oh, you're Julia's coach, and you this is the school that Julia played for. And so like volleyball fans around the world know about Georgia Tech volleyball, which has been pretty cool.
Nice.
To see and a great evolution for just our brand. But we got a lot of work ahead of us. It's going to be a challenging season. But I'm just we got the right people on board, and we're going to keep grinding it out and see what happens.
That's awesome. Let's talk about the games before we finish. What do you want to see from these first couple of preseason games? And then, I mean, I'm not going to ask him for an actual prediction, but where do you want to be come the final game against Louisville before hopefully some postseason play?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think our goals, as always, is to just kind of, be the best that we can. I think compete. I think that for the first preseason matches, it's a pretty cool tournament, pretty cool setup, how they're doing it, why they're doing it. There's a lot of things that are going behind the Tampa Bay tournament, which is exciting. I obviously want to win, so we want us to compete. Yeah. But I think that again, it's just kind of, we got maybe 15 days here before we play our first match, and so it's maximizing our opportunities in the gym and being the best team that we can that Friday night. But knowing that there's still a lot that we're going to have to work on and keep getting better, and then be better the next day, and hopefully by conference, be at a good stage where we can be consistent with the level that we're at. And, by the end of December, we're in contention for the ACC championship, for being back in the tournament, and hopefully for hosting. It would be, our kind of primary goals there. But obviously we understand that this season will be a challenging one for us. So we'll see how we respond and the results that we get. But I'm just excited about the opportunity to get out there and compete.
That's awesome. I can't wait to be out there. I'll be there on Sunday. The next Sunday, I'll figure it out. Hopefully I'll be there. But either way, I'm super excited to watch y'all to be in the pressure cooker of O'Keefe again and absolutely sweat because of how hot it gets in there. But that's part of the experience. I'm looking forward to the Georgia match as well. So, Michelle, thanks so much for coming on again.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me.
So, last season I neglected to have any players on the podcast, which I feel like is a crime for myself, considering I was at literally every game I could get to last season. So this year, darn it, we're going to get a player on here, and we got one. Paola Pimentel, thank you so much for coming on our preview pod before the season started.
Thank you so much for reaching out, of course.
Awesome. So y'all were just in Florida. I was talking to Michelle earlier. How was the Florida trip? How was summer? What do you do to get your mind off volleyball when you're not in school?
Yeah, it was really nice. It was just really hot in Florida.
Yes.
Like we expected, but we spent a great time together, team bonding. That was essential for beginning of the season. We definitely are ready for preseason now.
Nice. So this is year 3 at Tech. We were talking earlier, obviously you haven't been at Tech your whole career, but final season at this point. What has come to mind when you hear, oh, this is the last ride, or do you even think about that? Do you just shove that away, or do you embrace it at this point?
Well, I do embrace it, but there's obviously comes to mind. It's really hard to believe this is like going to come to an end, but like, it just makes me think, and I'm going to make this one the best one. I just feel like all out. There's nothing else we can do, nothing to lose. Literally my last 6 months in college, like playing my last season. So I'm really excited for that.
Has that altered at all, like how like you've mentally prepared for a season? Like I assume you've done this enough times to where you have a flow of how you get from zero to 60 or whatever. Is that different? Has these last couple months been different than the summers of 2022 and 2021 in that case?
Honestly, I feel like I've been like having a lot of more time for volleyball now, especially because I only have 2 classes left.
Oh, that's nice.
So,
that's nice.
Yeah. So this semester is really going to be volleyball focused, of course, like balancing school and everything, but it's not going to be the same as the past semesters with 6 classes, 5 classes.
Right.
So yeah, I definitely feel like I'm feeling better this year.
Nice. And you're in Scheller too. Business degree.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Okay. I graduated from there too. So who do you have? Who do you have left? Because I'm curious what your professors are now.
Well, honestly, I had already had like all my classes, and I left the 2 easiest ones to the end because I knew they were going to be offered this semester. Because last semester we always get scared about like not having your class offered.
Right.
So I have operation. It's actually OB, organizational behavior.
Yep. Okay. Mm-hmm.
It's like a freshman class, I believe.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy, and math. I think 17-12.
Did I take 17-12? Is that one thing? I probably did. I don't remember. That was 6 years ago when I took that class. But no, that's a smart way to do it. Yeah. No, I mean OB is definitely one of the easier Scheller classes. In all honesty, I think I took that during COVID, so that was like a weird version of that too, where I'm like only watching recorded videos and have no idea who I'm taking the class with either. That was a weird situation.
Right. No, I had it all planned. I was like, last season I'm gonna have to choose this class at the end. I already finished all my major requirements, like all that.
That's really cool. That's smart. That's a good way to do it. Are you the kind of player that when the schedule comes out where you're circling a couple games where you're like, okay, that one I'm like really particularly excited for? And if so, are there any that you once you saw the schedule roll out, you were pointing fingers at them?
Well, obviously every game is exciting. Beginning of the season, like every single match is gonna be like all out for us. But definitely the McCamish games are there's that feeling that last year we couldn't get the best result out of it, but we had like a great amount of people there, great atmosphere. We had a great time. So we're really excited for that game again.
That one I'm really excited to see. My internal math, which is completely based on nothing, is there should be 5,000 people there at least. Like if there's not, I don't think I think that should be the goal here.
If I'm not wrong, I think it was 3,000 last year.
3,400, yeah.
3,400, yes.
Yeah, and it was allowed 3,400 too. So add any more of that. That's gonna be really cool. I did ask Michelle about that game earlier, and now I'm thinking about this because she mentioned that y'all are only going to play that one game there, but there's an adjustment that there might need to be made when y'all are preparing to like get used to the sight lines in McCamish versus playing in O'Keefe and just how much bigger the room is. Do you feel any difference? Did you feel any difference last year when playing in McCamish against Pitt versus all the other games in O'Keefe?
Yeah, well, definitely the depth perception is a lot different. McCamish is way bigger than O'Keefe. O'Keefe, we also feel like the crowd right next to you.
It's right there. You're right there. Yeah.
Yeah, McCamish is a little far away. So we feel like we're in a stadium, even though it's not like one of the biggest gyms we have. But there's definitely the floor difference too. Like not having having wood is really different
it is different, right?
Especially me, libero, to slide on the ground, like all that. But well, those are things that we can adapt, and obviously we'll get ready for those games, practicing there a couple times before.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. I kind of wonder if y'all are gonna like put a surface on top of the basketball court last year. Then I get there, I was like, oh nope, and then I forgot most teams play on basketball courts anyways. So like that was very very standard anyways.
Yeah. Well, I guess if it was like, well, if we play like more games like more often at McCamish, like maybe in the future, they can adjust to that. But I don't think now they're gonna do that, especially because I feel like we're only playing 2 games.
Yeah. You just do that. That's easy enough. O'Keefe, I love it in there so much because it just does it feel like a pressure cooker in there to you? Because for me, I kind of like if it's 3 sets, I love it because we're in and out. But then if it gets to a 4th or 5th set, like the air conditioning's been off long enough that like everyone starts sweating a lot. And then I wasn't there for the Louisville game where y'all had to like rub down the court for 20 minutes, but like what do those games feel like when it gets past that 90-minute mark and you're really in the trenches at that point?
It's really exhausting, but it also, we can feel like the crowd, everyone is like also sweating, like we feel the vibe. So that's something that just pushes forward to actually finish those games, like working hard, like not letting our guard down, like no matter what the score is.
And you're the one that's flying literally all over the floor too. So, I mean, I can only imagine how the elbows and knees feel at the end of those games.
Right.
Let me go backtrack a little bit since we haven't talked to you on the podcast before about when you're at Miami-Dade before coming to Atlanta. What was the shift for you coming from Miami to Atlanta, and what prompted you coming to Tech in the first place?
Well, obviously there's a big difference between junior college and Division I school.
Yeah.
That was my goal since my first day in the US, to transfer to a good D1 school. When I got my Georgia Tech offer, that was so unexpected because I actually reached it out before. They didn't have the scholarship. They didn't have, yeah, they had a full roster. It ended up like working out because another libero quit, like had her own problems with the school. So they ended up having the scholarship for me, perfect timing, and haven't signed with anyone yet.
Yeah.
So that was like within, I think, 3 months, like before I actually come. So
wow, that's you barely had a turnaround time to get up here and make it work. That's insane.
Yeah, it was really exciting. I got here during the media day. Like the girls never saw me before. I just walked in media day, so like that was a little like nervous for me, especially being new, like just coming into a new team. Like I watched those girls on TV, so like for me it was it's dream coming true, but it was gonna be hard adapting to like a new school, new program, new staff, like all that.
Yeah. Well, since you haven't missed a set since you showed up here, though, which is I didn't do the math, but you're at 215 in a row by back of the napkin math, which I assume is most of the people that are here right now because y'all went through a lot of turnover. But I know there were others that were playing that had kind of done the similar thing of barely missing any sets, and I know Michelle keeps a pretty tight rotation. When you were playing with others that were older than you who had been playing basically every point for years on end, was there something you learned from them about how to maintain yourself throughout one of those longer matches and just throughout a season if you're going to play all the time and be diving all the time and being a server and just doing the defensive stuff that comes with your position?
Yeah, well, definitely a couple of players shout out to me when I first came here. They were, like I said, way more experienced than I was. Was my first season, but not my first like obvious volleyball season because I was a freshman before. But it was way different for me, and a couple people like helped me. They throughout the whole season, they were telling me like, we've been through, like it's gonna be hard, just push through. Yeah. So yeah, I'll never forget those moments. They were crucial to that adaptation.
I think it's certainly been helpful because you've been very, very good these last couple of seasons. Was there a favorite game or point from last season for you that still sticks out?
From last season?
Yeah.
Well, I think even though we lost like a couple games, like those games that we lost, there were rallies, like there were like just so many rallies that were the ball didn't drop the floor, we were just fighting through. So there was just so many of them.
That there was, I think, what was one I remember? I think I got TJ to send me the video of when you the one against Syracuse where I think you were like near the bench, like way in the corner.
Oh yeah, there's this one. There's a picture. Yes, someone got that on a picture. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember exactly, but I think someone shanked to the bleachers, and I just kept running through. And the only thing I remember is Scott and Jill on the bench, our director of preparations, and Scott, our strength coach, just stopping me. I'm like, got them hands out of the way and just kept going. And I almost like jumped into them to save that ball. And when I turned and just all the crowd like screaming, I was like, it's up. Like as long as the ball is up, that's all that matters. So yeah, that was definitely
at that point, are you just throwing your arm out there, or like have you like nailed down where you need to put your arm in that moment? I haven't played volleyball, so like I don't know anything in this front.
Honestly, when you're just running to reach the ball and the ball's that far away, you just dive and hope the ball touches you and bring that ball back to the court. So yeah, I had my teammates running behind me, like always like following the ball. So we had the ball over. We actually kept the ball in play. Yeah. So that was really nice.
That was when I saw that there, I was like, I couldn't believe what I'd seen when I was sitting there watching that. It was amazing. I want to ask about the game at Florida State as well, when Julia had her 38 kill game, y'all did the reverse sweep and stuff like that. Watching that on TV, I was floored again, as y'all usually do. But when Julia was getting up there and just getting kill after kill, and y'all were clearly shifting the momentum back, do those particular games where you are literally witnessing history and helping history happen, and at the same time I mean, I thought y'all had lost to Miami 2 days before, so like I felt like y'all needed it at the same time. Do those kind of games feel different to you in the moment? Like, is there a different kind of momentum inside you when you're getting
Yeah.
through those games?
Definitely when I mentioned one of the rallies was during that game because we were losing 2-0. They were up, they're about to win the game. And we just got together. We are like, let's fight. Like one more said, they're not finishing this game now. We're gonna go all out. Especially because after the Miami loss was really hard for us to digest. And like we had a game like 2 days after, like you said. So we didn't have that much time. We just kept practicing, like working hard, learning from our past. And yeah, like that game, we're just like sat Julia, like she was on fire. We were all like defense, like we are all over the place, and we just wanted to kept the ball in play and try to score as much as we could. And I think she was 1 point away of making history.
Yeah. She needed one. She needed one more to have the single game record for Tech. And
yes.
I don't know. I assume you saw her interview afterwards. She's like, I just wanted one more ball, and I was like, I love that. I love that spirit of just like, no, she wasn't. Y'all won, and she still wasn't satisfied at the end.
Yeah, no, we were after we found out that it was 1 point away, because obviously when you're playing, you don't count.
Yeah,
like we have no idea like how many digs I got, like how many more points she needs, you know, like we don't know that stuff. But definitely when the game ended, they were all laughing. We were all like, what happened? We were like 1 point away. We were like, no way, like literally one ball. Like,
that game was amazing. And speaking of like lessons and stuff, you were saying, like, is there something you're pulling from what is it? What am I trying to say? Yeah. Was there a particular lesson from last year that you're pulling into this year, or even 2 years ago, just in general, that it may be new to you, that you're like, okay, let me plug and play and see if this works this season?
Yeah, well, definitely every season's different. We have different players and everything, but we just keep our program standards, like everything the same every time, trying to reach like higher goals. And I feel like after the 2021 season, we're all expecting to do great, like more than that, like Elite Eight, and we're reaching, like we don't want anything less than that, because that was such a great feeling.
Yeah.
And I think from last year, all we can do is learn from every single game, especially the last ones that we had to go all out. We were missing something. The other teams were better on the court, so they deserved the win and everything. So I just think we have to learn. Obviously, like keep our heads up, new season, new opportunities, and just be excited about it.
Are there any parts of your game specifically that you're wanting to see grow a little bit more than you have in the past?
Well, yeah, especially losing Julia as a serve receiver on our team. Normally it's me, Bianca, and Julia in the back row. That's going to be a big change for us. We're going to need someone to step in, like join us. And I'm going to try to get more court, like get more space, like lead the team, especially in the back row, because everyone else has to do the front row, like all that. And my position especially is more like taking control of the back row, like all the defense and passing. So I'm really going to focus on that and help the person that is going to step in, no matter who's going to be a freshman, a senior, grad, like we don't know. Whoever's going to step in, they're going to be ready for that. But I'm going to try my best to help.
Collier also mentioned earlier that she feels like this is one of the better teams in terms of the depth that you have and people that you can hopefully, I can't wait to see on Sunday at the practice game what that's going to look like. But does that feel like to you also like y'all got some real talent that from between the freshmen and everything like that?
Yeah, we had a big class called a couple of transfers that I don't think anyone is expecting. So that's something new for us, for them. So we're really excited about this season. We say it's a special group. It feels different, and we can't wait to make history again.
Let's hope. Fingers crossed. Give me what your pre-game routine is. What do you start with? What are your steps to get game ready?
Well, we start very early, even though we have like morning practice, like all that. But I just try to be focused on. I have my playlist. I just keep that on replay.
What's on it? Give me some artists. What's on it?
Some reggaeton, like Bad Bunny.
Nice.
You know, like Brazilian Anita, like Pedro Sampaio. Some music that's gonna just hype me up for the game. Like nothing's gonna slow me down. I try to stay away from my texts, phone calls, like all that.
Yeah.
Just having my headphones on. When we're in the locker room, we're locked in. Everyone's talking about what's going on the other side of the court. What's going to happen now? We're just getting ready for that. And yeah,
That's good. What give me one big goal. I mean, I know y'all want to win the championship, so let's that one aside, is there a big goal for you by the end of the season where you're gonna be, where if I do this, I'll consider this a successful season?
well, I just want to give my all every single game and leave the court. Obviously, like no matter what's the result, like obviously we're trying to win all of the games. But we know like some stuff happened. It's uncontrollable,
Yeah.
We just have to learn from that. And I'm just honestly trying to leave the court with like my head's clean, my mind clean, saying like, oh, I did my best. That was all I could do. I gave my all on the court. And obviously there's some goals that we want to reach, the ACC championship.
Yeah.
That's one thing we've been on there on the top, but it still feels like we're so close.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely one thing for this year that we're gonna work on.
It will be tough. I've just get it between 4 games between Pitt and Louisville. Thankfully, you got 2 games against Syracuse. Not to demean them, but I mean, y'all got their number, I think, good enough. And a lot of other teams, so I'm looking forward to it. Before we wrap up, I always play tech favorites with people that I haven't interviewed before. So give me first your favorite building, and it cannot be O'Keefe.
Okay.
Your favorite building on campus.
Oh, that's hard. I think I would say Scheller. I obviously spend a lot of time there. That's where I go when I need to just study, like get some, like homework done. There's a Starbucks right down there, so that's where I normally stay. Scheller's a little far from the other buildings on campus, so I would say that's definitely where I spend most of my time, besides O'Keefe, of course.
I was always the Chihuly in there, the big glass sculptures. Those are my favorite parts of campus. Easily was seeing that all the time. Favorite food spot, whether on or off campus.
Food spot?
Yeah.
Ooh, obviously Brazilian food, Marietta. But I would say on campus, student center, they renovated. There's a couple new places there. We can get smoothies. We can get some just different options than we normally have. But also obviously the athletic department where we get all our food.
Yeah. What was the last one? Oh yeah, favorite professor. I hopefully I'll know who this is because we both have the same major.
Okay, that's hard. I don't know. Honestly, I've had a couple good ones. Okay, that's really hard to decide. I don't want to.
You're fine. No, it's good. Who was mine? Oh shoot, I had a couple good ones too. They're on it. Oh, Bill Todd. I liked him a lot. I don't know if you had him.
Who?
Bill Todd. I think he does some strategy class. I actually had a class with Breland with him actually.
I don't think
in the
I
past. So okay. Well, anyways, maybe I'll just cut that out entirely. That's all I got. Thanks a ton for hanging out for a little bit. I'll be there on Sunday. I'll be there as many games as I can get to. Y'all are of the best on campus. So good luck. Please win every game, just for my emotional happiness too.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all the words, for supporting, and of course, go Jackets.
Welcome back to Signs of the Southland. Thank you, Mr. Purdy, for conducting that interview, and thank you to head coach Michelle Collier and 5th year libero defensive specialist Paola Pimentel for speaking with us. Mr. Grant, it's time for trivia, and in the document you have said volleyball is the only hint that we receive.
Yes. So today we're going to be talking about some historic volleyball stats. I've limited our window, since there are a lot of them, to just teams we're playing this year. And Jack, you might know this. Akshay, I don't know if you do. There is one team from this list of opponents this year that we have not yet played before. Obviously, it's not an ACC team. But do you know who is the team that Tech has not yet played in volleyball?
It is. Oh boy, it's. Oh, is it? No, it's not. It's not them. It's not them. I think it's either San Diego or Stetson, but I'm leaning
Florida
San
A&M.
Diego. We've played FAMU.
Interesting.
We
have
played
FAMU.
Oh wait, no, is it Howard? Oh, it might be Howard. Oh man, like as you can see, I'm just crawling for the bit of this. Okay, final answer is San Diego.
All right. All time, we are 12-0 against Florida A&M. So it's not FAMU. Against San Diego, we are 0-1 all time.
Oh, it was one match. Oh, dang it.
We have played them. It's
Dang it.
actually Howard.
It was Howard.
which
Okay.
Tech has never played in volleyball before. We have played them 12 times total. We are 11-1 with that one loss coming from the men's tennis team in 1981 in the 1981-82 season. So quite some time ago. That was a 7-2 loss. Interestingly, we have only played Howard once before in a women's sport. That is women's basketball in the 1988-1989 season. It was a close game, 87-82. So that is the first part. And I've got one more for you. Unless we decide to just go vamping on forever about this. Like I said, we have played these teams a grand total of a lot of times, given the ACC teams and UGA. All time, we are 560 against them, so relatively successful. But there is one coach in mind that I have here who is the greatest all-time win percentage against this collection of teams. Yes, that is an indictment of their performance against the ACC, but can you guess which of Tech's all-time coaches has the best win percentage against this year's slate?
Doesn't help that I don't really know any of the other coaches we've ever had. So
we mentioned this person during our podcast prep.
It's Szymanski.
Oh yeah, I already forgot his name.
It is Szymanski. Bond Szymanski is not Tech's all-time winningest coach. That is Shelton Collier, who is 112-60 all-time against this selection. Bond Szymanski is 109-38 for a 741 clip. Of note, if we rack up at least 4 wins against this specific slate of opponents, Michelle Collier will pass not only Bond, but also, wait, it is Shelton Collier. What am I saying? Wow. Good job, me. Win percentage. It's still Bond. There we go. I knew I wasn't crazy. But if we win at least 4 of these games, Michelle will become the all-time winningest coach against this selection of teams. And then against the ACC, I'm waiting for it to load, but I believe that would make her Tech's winningest ACC record coach as well. But give me just a minute to let all that filter out of the system. Gents, any questions, any comments? What are you looking forward to for this coming year that we haven't really gotten into in terms of the just the volleyballness of it, or like the atmosphere? What are you looking forward to?
The humidity of a full O'Keefe gym, and also having to clean the floor down again.
Can't wait to do that. I've actually never done it. I kind of want to do that this year. Maybe that's my bucket list item, is to get asked to go clean the floor. I'd love to do that one time.
I also did not mop the floor last year. I will freely admit that, but it was very funny. The fact that they had to call people in, or ask fans, to wipe down the floor or help them wipe down the floor after it got so humid in there. It was very funny. But now that they've replaced the HVAC in there, it should be mostly fine.
Of note, and at that same Board of Regents meeting we started the podcast with, there were improvements to O'Keefe listed as proposed things to happen in terms of building maintenance. So and HVAC has been that's been a constant factor there. So like, yeah, their improvements are on the way. So to in the 7 figures in terms of dollars spent. So they're gonna put some money into this building.
Man, they had a 7-figure renovation lined up a while back, but shame that never came through. That said, my hunch was correct. If Michelle Collier wins at least 8 ACC games this year, she will be alone atop the winningest ACC winningest of ACC games among Tech coaches. Wow, it is getting late. I am struggling through my words there, but yeah, 7 wins, and she stands alone above Collier and Szymanski.
Well, Mr. Grant, thank you for your contributions and your leadership through trivia, but unfortunately, I am going to have to make you say more words as you take us out for the night.
Yes. in terms of places you can find From the Rumble Seat, you can find us at fromtherumbleseat.com. You can email us at fromtherumbleseat@gmail.com. We do appreciate any feedback, suggestions, ideas, interview requests, all that good stuff. Email us, comment on the website at fromtherumbleseat.com as well. You can find From the Rumble Seat at FTRS blog on Twitter. You can find me at JakeGrant98 and Jack at Jack Nicholas. You can find Section 103 there as well at Section 103 and Section103.com. You can find at From the Rumble Seat at Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And you can find this podcast wherever fine podcasts are distributed. With that said, it's been a long episode. Thanks for listening. Good night, good luck, and go Jackets.